Welcome to West Virginia Uncommonplace. Today, I have Harrison Barron with me on this podcast, and he is a social media selling expert. Can you tell us what that is encompassed? And can you tell us who you are and tell us every little thing that we need to know about you?
Yeah, man. So I'm 5'9". I'm rolling around the 300 mark. That's about me. I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not kidding, but
Okay.
I got into the social media world kind of out of an accident. So I came from the IT world. I was doing a lot of sales on there and stuff like that. I've always lived behind a computer screen, and I kind of stumbled upon it. So I left my old IT company, started a new business. But at the IT company, I was doing a lot of selling on LinkedIn. And I didn't really realize I was just doing it. It's like you put your pants on, right? You put your left foot in or your right foot in. You do the same thing every day, right? Like nobody ever asks you, hey, what leg do you put your pants in, in your pants first, right? You just do it, right? So I would just go and I would prospect on LinkedIn and I'd create some content on LinkedIn or share some stuff out and stuff like that. And I was getting a lot of traffic. I was getting a lot of leads from it. And I was like, okay, whatever. So left my old IT company, started to go over to, started my own business called Barron Media Group. And now we're actually about to become, by the time this drops, it'll be officially Growth Generators. So growth-generators.com. And I started out as a social media marketing agency. I took the Ty Lopez pill and I was like, oh, I could do this, whatever. So I love how you're laughing because everybody knows, like everybody's seen it. And like, I bought one product from him. I bought the 67 steps. I ended up listening to about 10. It was too much. It was just too much to consume. It was like impossible to consume, and it was good value. It was a lot. So
way too much.
But I was like, I could probably do, I could probably run a digital marketing agency. And at this time I had started my podcast, and it's funny. My employees are always like, you always talk about this podcast. And I'm like, well, the podcast was the catalyst to everything. So I started the podcast inside my old company. Literally had a closet, not much smaller than the room that I'm in. And I'd have people come in. So as I was telling you, right, like I had my 4 ATR 2100s, and we'd sit there and I'd record and I'd have people come in, and it was really good because these people were seeing me and also seeing the company, the IT company. So it was good cross promotion. Some of these people became clients of that IT company, and that was part of the goal, right? To bring these people in. And it gave me access to a lot of people that normally I wouldn't have access to. They wouldn't either answer my message on LinkedIn or something like that. But if somebody was like, hey, you got to talk to this kid Harrison, he has a podcast, they would be like, oh, I'd love to be on a podcast. And they'd march right in and, shake my hand. People I could never get access to. Like one of my homies, this guy, Brian Karp, he sold 200 and, oh God, I'm going to screw this up. 240, 250 houses last year, something like that.
Whoa.
So yeah, the dude's like a savage. I think he's number one in the company. He's top 10 in the company in the country. And I know he's number one in New York by volume. Yeah, the dude's no joke. And he would never pick up a phone call from a guy like me. Right. And so somebody mentioned to him and was like, I was like, hey man, I have a podcast. And somebody had briefly mentioned it to him before and was like, you should come on, Harrison's podcast. And that was the opening floodgate. So anybody that's interested in starting a podcast, it's just one of the side effects of what could happen. So when I started my own business, I started out doing social media, and I was finding a lot of clients on LinkedIn and stuff like that and locally, and I could run social media accounts. And I was like, cool, this is awesome. The problem is I realized that I hit two major walls, and Ty and these guys never talk about this. And this is one of the things that does drive me nuts. Just because you can build somebody's social media presence doesn't mean they're going to get more customers. And the reason is because it's like your front door, right? If you can get somebody to come to the front door, first of all, it doesn't mean they can come into your house, but if your house doesn't accommodate them, right, then it doesn't really serve a purpose. And I mean that meaning you can find somebody on LinkedIn who wants to buy your stuff or wants to see your business, and then they come to your website. And if your website isn't up to par, they're gone. Right? Because if it's too cumbersome to buy something, to figure out where, I can't tell you how many people have phone numbers on their website and you can't click to make a call. Like you have to actually copy and paste. I swear to God. Blew my mind. So I'm like, okay, there's a major problem here. And this is something that was happening to me. I would get these clients on decent retainers, making a couple $1,000 a month, and time again, I'd hit a major wall, and they're like, "Hey, you're not really bringing in the customers." I'm like, I don't understand how I cannot be bringing the customers. Like, I'm running the social media account, I'm running ads, I'm creating tons of content for you. I could see you're getting 100, 200, 300, 500 visits per week. There's no way that not one person has reached out to you. They're like, no, we're not getting any traffic. And okay, let me go look at the website. And the website was garbage.
Yeah.
Garbage.
Dumpster juice.
Yeah. Dumpster juice. I like that. And I like dumpster juice. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, are we allowed to curse on this?
Yeah.
I was like, well, shit. This is a big problem because now it's making me look bad, right? I'm grinding. I'm doing this. I'm taking money from somebody else. I'm performing the service or good that I promised. And then I'd fall flat on my face because they didn't have a website. And if they did have a website, which was great, they had no presence. There was no blog. There was no updates. Most of the time it was like, okay, we have a website. It was from 10 years ago when we were at this location. Sometimes they didn't even have the right location on there. They just were like, oh, I need to get on social media, right? They take that Tai Lopez pill, right? So I was like, well, this is not sustainable because that means I'm going to have to find clients over and over and over and over again. They're going to hire me for 3, 6, 9 months. And I don't know when they're going to fire me because they're going to fire me. It's not if, it's a matter of when, because just because I'm doing a good job, right? If you hire the best golf coach in the world, but you don't go to practice, it doesn't matter. You're never going to get anywhere. You need that website. You need a continuous plan to get you from point A to point B, right? And this was the major problem. So I was like, well, we have to revise everything. And I built a website for my podcast. I built a decent social media presence for my podcast. And I had connections that, I mean, I almost got Cecil Fielder on the podcast. I don't know if anybody knows, but Cecil's
famous baseball player.
Famous baseball player, right?
Detroit.
I have a cell phone number in my phone.
Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, like he's a homie, and he's like, dude, I'm in whenever you want. Let me know. And like, that was the access that you got, that I got out of my podcast. Like that's because my podcast was in person. I did like 3 or 4 Zoom calls. I really wasn't into it. And I kind of squashed that. And I said, look, I'll go to you. I don't mind traveling to you, but there's no way that we're doing this over Zoom. It was very rare I did somebody over Zoom, and it was like people that were like in Iowa that I was like, there's no way I'm getting there or they're getting here.
Right.
So that was the really cool part about it. So then I was like, well, we have to figure out something else. So then we started offering websites, and I had a couple people, and then I had a couple people buy it, and I was like, okay, this is something that we can do, right? Same problem, right? Okay, I built you this website, right? I drove some traffic from Instagram or social media or LinkedIn to your website or to you. And now we have another problem, right? There's no marketing strategy. There's no way for people to continuously find more information. There's no way for Google to help you and things like that. So then I started offering SEO services, and that's kind of what we've landed on over the last 3 years is, because I'm about to break 3 years in April.
Okay.
Is really just focusing heavily on SEO, helping people get found, and then teaching small business owners that can't afford these large SEO packages or inbound marketing packages how to do LinkedIn sales, because it's so incredibly effective to get in front of, the key decision makers, the CEOs, the CMOs, the CSOs, the CROs, C-suite people. You can just, I compare it to, I don't know if anybody that's listening is an anti-gun, but like you're a sniper, right? You can literally target down to the person, find out who's in the company, message them, and chances are pretty good you're going to get a response back.
Oh, wow.
That was a tangent and a half.
Oh, yeah, I like that. Now, this is one thing I need you to do because we both know this about podcasts. I need you to plug everything real fast because people skip through the podcast.
Yeah, man. So my main digital marketing agency is Growth-Generators, especially by the time this drops. That's going to be, the website's just about done on there. So definitely go check that out. And the LinkedIn course, and I'm putting together a podcasting course. So if you're interested in starting a podcast or anything like that, or you're interested in getting a hold of business owners and stuff like that. And it's not just for, the business owner starting a small business. Like if you're a salesperson, I've had people go through this course. This is a total shameless plug, but it's so cool to hear this from people. They go through this course and they go from being the bottom man on the totem pole to, top 1, top 2, top 3 in the company as far as sales, because they just learned how to use social media. It's not that thing like, it's not that thing. It's not that tool in the kitchen. You're like, oh God, this is what the pros use. No. Like anybody can do it. It's not that hard. So if you want to find that stuff out, go visit my personal website, harrisonbarron.com.
Okay. And I like that. And the reason I like this is because like everything that you said, you're telling the truth that people don't realize, because everybody thinks you can just get on YouTube, you can get on Instagram, and even when you privately discuss it, like how I got to where I got to, everybody has to take a different route. But this concept that people think of, people think they start, we'll just use the podcast as an example. People think you start a podcast somewhere on a hosting platform, you get on Instagram, you do a few memes, you do a few ads here or there, you pay for promotion with Instagram, which I'm kind of iffy about, because I always tell people, if you don't have a true product to promote,
don't do it.
Then don't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say this on this podcast right now. Someone needs to a lot of my fellow podcasters need to reach out to you to take this course, because it seems like your course would help them understand the marketing strategy. Because everybody thinks that once you get to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, or actually let's be 100% honest. When you get to 10,000 listeners, that, oh, you're going to be the next Joe Rogan, or, oh, you're ready to go over to Megaphone, or even, I hate to say Buzzsprout, because Buzzsprout's pretty big when you get that high numbers, but they think that it's time for them to jump to the next level, and there's levels to everything.
Yeah.
And people think that just because you see this, the thing that's been embedded in people's minds, people take the social media aspect of YouTube and say, hey, I was on YouTube, I got 1 million views, it should transfer to money. That is not how it works on social media.
It's never. And I know that people can't see me, but I'm shaking my head, because it's just, that's the farthest thing from reality possible. And well, I'll let you finish first before I go.
Oh, no, I was good. I'm ready for you to go on that one.
So I think the problem is, and this is something that I suffered, right? Because you see all these people and you're like, you go on YouTube and you're like, oh, Mr. Beast, right? 35 million subscribers, right? You got PewDiePie, almost 100 million, or he's over 100 million now. You got like Graham Stephan, 2.5 million. You got Stradman, you Tanner Fox. Like, I'm just trying to pick like a bunch of different people that I follow, right? But you have all these people that are like over 1 million subs, right? You got Peter McKinnon, right? He's got 3.5 million. Like, there's so many people out there with over 1 million subscribers, and you're like, I could do that, like, easy, right? And it's the same thing with the podcast. Like, my podcast literally started on a whim. Like, my old podcast was called We're Live with Cam and Harry. It was just my buddy and I. We started literally in my bedroom, and I didn't know shit about podcasting. I mean, I plugged 2 USB microphones into a computer, and the computer was like, what's going on? Because it didn't register that 2 different devices. It registered 2 of the same. It was a disaster. So like, but that's like what people don't talk about. Like, people don't talk about that. And I say this on like every podcast I'm on, but like, I really don't care for Gary Vee for the most part, but like, he does say like some stuff that he does say is like so true. Like, you have to love the process, right? Like, we're breaking the $100,000 mark, this year, which is super cool. And that's reoccurring revenue for anybody interested. But like, that's cool. And like $1 million is cooler a year. But like, the fun part is actually the going from 0 to 100 grand a year, of reoccurring. The fun part is the 0 to 1 million, right? The fun part is hiring that employee, not what the employee can produce, but like, it's really, I hate when he says this, but like, you have to love the process. Like, you really do. Like, if you want to start a podcast, or you want to go, I could teach, you could go to the Navy, go to Navy SEAL training, BUDS, and want to be a SEAL, but you have to love the process. You have to love getting the shit kicked out of you. And that's literally what being a business owner is like. You have to love eating shit all day long and going through like, don't know if I'm going to pay my bills this month because so-and-so didn't pay me. Don't know if this is going to happen. Don't know if this is going to happen. Like, that's the best part. And somebody listening to this is like, dude, this dude is whacked out. But that's like the fun. Like, if somebody hands you a check for, I don't know, what's this check on my desk, right? Somebody hands you a check for $1,500, right? And gives this to you. That's cool. But if you didn't do anything for it, it doesn't provide value, right? Like, I look at some of my competitors and I'm like, oh, they got VC money, or they had like a private investor who dropped 100 G's in there. And like, yeah, I'm like, that's cool for them. And I'm so glad I never got that, because I wouldn't have learned nearly what I've learned now. But what I'm really jealous of as far as my competitors is the kid that his dad owned a big company already, and his dad said, hey, we'll give you a shot with a decent retainer. Or, his best friend's father owned, or was a senior vice president of a company, and he got a $3,500 a month retainer. So he has to work for it, but he has income. Like, it's not just gifted. It's not this check that just says, hey, here you go. It's this grind, that hustle. That's the best part about anything. And when you find that, that's when you're going to succeed no matter what. If you're in sales, you're in business, you want to start a podcast, right? Like, how many people have started podcasts and failed because they just thought, oh, I'm going to start a podcast, I'll be at 1 million subs in a month. Like, no, it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, general growth like that does not happen. And that's what I tell all these other podcasters, because I give back to my community in a sense. Like, I try to help them and I try to show them certain things. Now, I do not have an advertising background. I'm just lucky because of my normal 9-to-5 job that puts me in certain positions with people. So I can never generate or even fathom how you do everything you do. But the one key thing that I always tell these people is, one thing, consistency, and you have to have a marketable product.
That is like the second or third slide is consistency on the podcasting course.
Right. And my whole thing is this. So many people think that just because you get out here and we're doing this podcast right now, that, some people put people that, like, I see that have maybe 100 listeners, they put all this extra bells and whistles into their podcast. They do all this extra production. I run a raw podcast. I will edit this material, okay, just a little bit to fix that sound and make sure we don't have transformer moving sound.
Sure.
As of today, I am using a $30 mic because I'm on the go.
That's it, bro. That's how it goes, man.
But my production cost is $0.
Sure.
We won't discuss what I make, but what I make off of it is at least 10, 20 times what. I mean, because I have no actual driving costs in this. That's how I make success. And then some people, this is what gets me, and I want to ask you about this. Because like you said, and I hate to tear off from the podcasting real fast, but I don't understand that someone that's just coming out with a podcast would pay to put their podcast on a hosting platform. I am 100% behind people putting it on Anchor to build a subscriber base and then go from there. Because you can take that RSS feed and redirect it somewhere. You own all your episodes.
When I started my podcast, I started on SoundCloud.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I was never I was poor once in my life.
Okay.
And that shit sucked a lot. It was really like in the beginning of my bartending career, and I was like looking for odd jobs to like make ends meet. I've always been a hard worker. There's never a day that's gone by that I've ever said to myself, or somebody's ever said to me, like, you're lazy. Like, that's never the case. Like, even last night, I was texting a lead at 1:30 in the morning, and I'm texting, my employees. I'm like, no sleep for the wicked. And then I'm up at 7 o'clock in the morning for the dogs to let the dogs out. Like, I'm not burning. I mean, I'm definitely burning the candle on both ends, and I'm not saying that everybody needs to do that. That's definitely extreme, right? But if you want extreme growth, that's kind of what it takes. But even in high school and stuff like that, like, I would go buy a mini keg of Heineken. Like, I was never poor. I always had a job. I always had money, and I always knew that when you spend money, you get more value, right? So even in high school, when I was a little degenerate and I was buying a keg of mini keg of Heineken, I knew that the Heineken keg tasted better than Natty Ice. And for the $7 more it was going to cost me, it was a no-brainer, right? And so that was kind of the mentality with, well, one, Anchor wasn't around, and then two, a lot of these platforms weren't around because now I've been doing my show for almost 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years. But, a lot of these platforms weren't around. So you had to go find, you had to ghetto rig Bluehost or something like that. Like, it was like jerry rig because nobody had a full podcasting platform. So I went on SoundCloud and I was like, $15, like, whatever. That's whatever 15 times 12 is, $200 a year. I'm like, that's $200 a year I will pay for the rest of my life. It's kind of like buying your own domain name, right? Like, if you buy like, I tell everybody, I'm like, you're insane if you don't buy your name.com, right? harrisonbarron.com. Blows my, even if you never build a website, just count that as $20 gone every single year for the rest of your life, because you don't want somebody to say, hey, wilbertsparrow.com is now going to be a porn site or a trash talking site or this,
Yeah.
or, you know, whatever, a gambling site or, you know, whatever it is. Like, you don't want that to happen. So that was one of the things. I'm like, this is $15. This is $200 a year, whatever it is, forever. Like, there's no end to that. Like, I will have my podcast for as long, and I tend to reinvest now that my course is kind of coming to an end as far as me building and stuff like that, to do a massive relaunch. I'm getting, you know, a Rodecaster, you know, a full Rode setup. What is it? The Rode Procaster is one of the items that I'm going to be getting.
But here's one thing I want to say about what you're talking about. But here's a difference in what you're doing than what these podcasters are doing right now. From what you did with your podcast, you monetized in other areas with it, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing that kills me right now, is because I tell people that if you want to get into this and if you're doing it for profit, stop. Because the first,
it's silly. No, you don't have a following.
The first,
you need to have something there to make it worth it.
Yeah, and like I tell people, like, I don't care if you were on some random television show or something else and you have 1 million followers on Instagram. Like you were saying earlier, 9 times out of 10, that does not translate to keeping listeners. You'll get unique listeners all the time, because that's a analytic that people always talk about. Is, I have 500 unique listeners, but I'll say you get that in a week's time. But let me see what happens next week. If your next content doesn't have that same type of awe factor, I'm not going to say value, because not everything has value to it, but that awe factor, you know.
Yeah, there has to be a purpose, right? And ironically enough, I feel like I'm plugging my course too much, but like,
well, no, that's what we want to do here.
Yeah, I know, but this is literally what I teach. Like you have to figure out, like, what's your end goal, right? Like, nobody runs a marathon to just be like, hey, I'm going to go run a marathon. No. They have a plan. Like, their plan is to hit 26.4 miles or 26.2 miles, whatever the marathon is. I don't even know. But like, you have to have a goal, right? So my podcast, the goal of it was never to monetize the actual podcast. Now, has it made money? Of course it has. I'd be lying if I said anything else. But that wasn't the main goal of it. The main goal of the podcast was to drive business elsewhere. So getting those introductions, meeting those people I really want to meet, building long-lasting friendships, getting hammered. We used to get loaded on my show, which was great. You know, but like, that was the coolest part. Like, I've made some of my best friends from my podcast. Literally, like, I invited them. I'm like, hey, you seem super, super interesting. Let's jump on a podcast. And then, hey, let's get, hey, it's Friday night. What are you doing? You want to do a podcast? Yeah, let's do it, man. Okay, come by the studio, right? My old studio was sick. Absolutely sick. But like that, like, so many people don't have any idea what they're doing. Like, if you don't want to spend all this money, right? Like, you don't live, it's not van life where it's like, hey, we'll just go wherever the wind takes us. Like, even van life people have a destination. Like, you can't just you can't just go out there and do it. And the other problem too is, if you don't have a destination in mind, giving up is so easy. It's literally just unplugging this little cable right here under the bottom of the mic and you're done. Like, that's it. Like, you hit cancel on your credit card and it's not very hard to stop. The hard part is keeping going and knowing where you're going and knowing where it's taking it, right? Like, loving the process. Joe Rogan, when he started his podcast, like, I don't know how many people actually listened to his early episodes, but like, if you listen to his early episodes, they had garbage. What is it? Sewer something?
Oh, what was it? Oh,
sewer slime, slewer.
I forgot. Hold on, it's slipping my mind. Oh. Because nobody remembers the old episodes.
Sewer juice, I think it was. Like, he had sewer juice audio quality. Like, it was trash. It was absolutely awful. But like, as time went on and people started to enjoy his stuff, like, his destination was fun, right? That was the goal of his podcast, was to have fun and hang out with his friends. And that's kind of where my podcast started. But my destination was a little different. It was to build those relationships. It was to have fun building relationships. So many people, no matter what journey it is, like, hey, 4 out of every 5 businesses fail in the first 5 years. Yeah, because everybody has ADHD, especially now more than ever. Like, I have customers, because we build websites for people. I have customers that are like, oh my God, can we do this? Oh, and can we add this? And can we add this? And I want to do this. And can we sell this? And I know how to do this. And I know how to do this. And it's like, this is the biggest problem. Actually, ironically enough, my little brother ran into this problem as well. And by the way, feel free to cut me off because I know I'm going on a ton.
No, keep going.
This is the stuff that gets me super fired up. But like my little brother, he was trying to get in real estate, and he's 21 now, and he just got his first real estate deal done. Took him 2 or so years, right? But he had a major identity issue, and that identity issue was, somebody came up to me and they're like, "Dude, what does your brother do?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What does my brother do?" I'm like, "He's trying to get into real estate, but he's doing a million other things," and that was the problem. He's trying to do a million other things, and the problem is he was very vocal about what he was trying to do. So he was, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to do this. I'm going to surf, and I'm going to teach surfing, and then I'm going to go be a captain on a yacht, and then I'm going to go do real estate, and then I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do this. And you're like, dude, what are you doing? Like, if you talk about Gary Vee, right? Gary Vee, we all know Gary Vee for 2 things: VaynerMedia and WineLibrary.com, right? That's his 2 big things that he pushes. I don't even like watch the guy anymore, and I still know that.
Yeah.
Right? Grant Cardone, he does one thing: sales training. That's it. Tony Robbins, what does he do? Changes people's lives. Like, the people that have it dialed in, right? What does Apple do? They provide innovative devices for people that are looking to progress in their life. That's literally what they do.
Right. Like everything I own.
You don't see Apple making tread climbers. You don't see Apple making, sneakers. Like, it just doesn't happen, right? What does Nike do? They make fitness apparel. You don't see Nike TVs anywhere.
No.
You have to figure out what you're doing. So he had a major identity crisis, and he's starting to resolve it and tone down what he wants to do. But like, I see customers all the time, like 4 out of every 5 businesses fail because they're like, they get this high on what they're doing. And they're like, oh my God, I'm being successful. I bet you I could go do this. And then they fail at that because they spent 10 years doing this. And then they want to do this on a whim. And then this gets neglected, and then they both fail. That's literally it, right? What does Walmart do? Walmart provides a great product, a great service, at an extreme convenience. That's what they do. Like, are Walmart's products the best in the world? No,
not at all.
But are they fairly priced? Yes. Are they extremely attainable? Yes. Are they located all over the place? Yes. Do they ever give you a hard time about returns? Almost never.
Right.
What does Costco provide? A membership service where you can get exclusive deals on large quantity products. That's what they do, right?
Yeah.
They have the biggest pizza chain in the world off of selling products, right? Like, but they're not known for pizza. They're known for their membership. Like, so many times people just, they're all over the place. I want to do this. 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 It's like, pick one. Go be a millionaire in one thing. And then when you're a millionaire, or you're super successful, or you have your company on autopilot and you don't need to do anything, then go dabble in other things.
Yeah.
What?
And I was going to say, the only company that can do that is Amazon.
Yeah. I mean, but Amazon, but it has, it's right. One section of it is on autopilot. So now it can go do other things in different areas, right? So it can build Alexa. So, it can build rockets. Same thing with SpaceX, right? Like Tesla. That's what it is, right? What does Tesla do? It provides electronic vehicles that now offer self-driving, right?
Yeah.
And then they got really good at that, and they're kind of in autopilot, and he has all these engineers that do this, that, and the other thing. Meanwhile, by the way, talk about loving the process. Elon slept in his warehouse, I think, for 2 months straight to figure out a major issue that they were having with Tesla cars a couple years back. So when people are like, oh, yeah, but, look at Elon. Yeah, that motherfucker slept in his sorry, I cursed. But
it's cool.
that dude slept in his warehouse on the ground. His employees bought him a bed. Dude's a multimillionaire. His employees bought him a bed so he would stop sleeping on the ground. And he owned the company. Love the process. Now he can go build rockets. He can go have fun. He can go
do whatever he wants now.
Like, love the process. Figure out what you're really good at. Stick with it. So if you're going to do podcasting, you should live, breathe, and die podcasting. You don't have to listen to everybody's podcast, but like every single thing you should do should be working every single day a little closer to that goal, right? I can't tell you how many. I'm doing this in air quotes. I know nobody can see this, but like entrepreneurs or wannapreneurs or like fakepreneurs are out there because they're like, oh, I'm a social media expert today. Well, what were you yesterday? A Bitcoin expert?
Yeah.
Were you a real estate investing expert? Like, what did you do yesterday? What do you plan on doing tomorrow? Or is tomorrow going to be Forex? Right? Like, I'm having a conversation with one guy. He's like, oh, look at this. You can make money on autopilot with Forex trading. He's like, you just put your money in and then you get money out. It's insane. Bro, if it was that easy, why isn't everybody doing it?
Right.
And why did you only put $500 in? Is that all you have in your bank account? Because you are a wantrepreneur and you can't keep to one thing for a long period of time?
I like that. I like that that right there. Because yeah, like I tell people, for instance, one thing I do in promoting other podcasts, right? I tell them 100% straight up, I am not an authority on anything. If your podcast has decent quality or something that I feel is great or innovative in certain areas, I will talk to you privately about that. I won't broadcast that to the world, but I will give you a little attention, put it on my Instagram story.
Sure.
And I get a lot of submissions, and obviously with my job, sometimes I have to drive places. So I may have sometimes I had a 10-hour commute to Maine one time.
Sure.
Or 13-hour from here. 13-hour from here to Maine. So obviously I had a lot of time to listen to podcasts.
Sure.
So I did. I told some people this and that and things like that. But I made sure that I wasn't like giving them. I didn't give them advice. I was like, this sounds good here, this, and that. But I didn't say you should take this sound and do this or that to it.
Sure.
We'll let them figure that out on their own. So before we get completely off topic, because this has been an amazing podcast, inside your classes,
yeah,
what we always love to do on podcasts is get a little bit inside these courses. Could you name a few courses and how you integrate that into people's social media?
Yeah, man. So I have two main courses. So I have a LinkedIn training course, and which teaches people really how to get in front of find, locate their ideal target market, and ultimately reach out. So, honestly, and I'll give you guys some secret tips that I reveal in there. Right, like LinkedIn is just like Facebook. It's slowly catching up. It was the neglected child when Microsoft bought it for the last 5 years or whatever it was. And now Microsoft is like, holy shit, we spent $28 billion. We should probably spend some time on fixing this thing. So, but the cool part is like on LinkedIn, there's groups that you can go into, and people are still using LinkedIn like the group feature isn't broken, which is phenomenal. Because if you want to get in front of, let's just say technology people. Right, you want to get in front of IT people, right? If you just type to LinkedIn information technology, right? We're just going to type in information technology, and the key thing is in groups, right? Information technology, fintech, blockchain, Bitcoin innovation, right? 398,000 members, focused around IT security audit and GCR, 83,000 members, right? Chief information officer, CIO, network, technology jobs. Oh my God, where do you think all the CIOs are hanging out online? In those goddamn groups. All you gotta do is produce a little bit of content to them, or just go through who's in that group, right? Because you don't need to pay for that. That's not a premium feature, seeing who's in the group, and go through and say, oh, this guy's the CIO, or this guy is the CSO, chief security officer, or this guy is the owner of the IT company, because you're looking to sell them a software that that might be able to help them and make them more profitable, right? Like that's the secret sauce. Like that's literally one of the secrets in the course. Like, so whoever you're going after, if you're looking to connect with podcasters, let's check this out right now, right? Or you're looking to get into real estate. I bet you there's a real estate group. I'm just going to do podcasting right now because I've actually never done this.
Okay.
So if you type in a podcast on LinkedIn, there is groups. So podcast placed by IGLU Radio, 1,700 members. Small business network and entrepreneurs. Digital marketing coach, social media, SEO, startup jobs. Okay, could be interesting. Social media, tech news, and the Chris Voss Show podcast network. 131,000 people. Right, those are your ideal listeners. Like, find the person. Right, there's these giant. Check Reddit. Like, the same strategy goes for all of it. It's just the strat. I just teach a strategy for LinkedIn, but like the digital marketing podcast. Right, I bet you that they're all digital marketers. So if you're selling a software, chances are pretty good you want to go in there and message all 3,600 people in there. Like people think I'm teaching like brain science. I'm just teaching you a different way to think on, podcast game consultant. Like, I don't know what that is, but like, go check it out. Go spend, people are like, well, that takes time. Well, obviously you can't go to the gym for 5 minutes and expect results. You got to spend a couple hours, bro. You got to do it 3 to 5 days a week. Like, that's what building a business is. You got to dump time, energy, and effort. And then there's working on the business and working in the business. So if you're looking to use LinkedIn, right? Like, you can't use LinkedIn for 3 minutes a day and expect results. If you want results on LinkedIn, you have to spend an hour a day. How many hours a day do you spend cold calling? If you swap that out for LinkedIn, I bet you your percentage goes up like 10x.
Yeah,
I'd find it hard to believe it does.
I'm actually going to try it in this next season.
Find somebody you want to connect with. Send them a message. I would say literally 50% of the time, like CEOs or chief level officers, I would say on average about 50% of them respond. So think about this with that stat, right? You go after a mid-sized company. There's probably, let's say 50 people, right? There's probably 5 to 10 C-suite or senior level management roles. So let's just say 10 for argument's sake. That means on average, 50% of them are going to respond. That means 5 people are going to answer. So if you're looking to get in front of that company, right? Or even if it's 5 people in the management, right? You have your CEO, potentially a president. If there's a president, if there's not a president, you have your CEO, probably a CRO, chief revenue officer. You have your COO, chief operation officer. And then you probably have 2 other suite positions. Maybe it's CRO or CSO or CMO or whatever those 2 are. But even at the bare minimum of 3, right? Let's just say the absolute bare minimum is of 3. 1 is going to not answer. 2 may not answer. I don't want to give you the middle finger. 2 may not answer. That means you're almost guaranteed to have 1 person in the C-suites answer you. Now it's your job to not sound like an idiot. Like, I don't teach people sales, but I teach people, hey, this is how you get in front of that right person. This is strategies on how to find it out, right? When you message them, they're going to do one thing. They're going to go look at who you are. Your profile has to be dialed in like a sniper scope on the out of the Navy SEALs. Like, it has to be so fine-tuned, because any slip up you have in your profile. I had somebody not hire me because I had 1 spelling mistake on my website.
Whoa.
That website proposal was $3,000. 3 G's on 1 spelling mistake. You know how much it would have cost me to have somebody go through my website? $100.
Yeah, no doubt on it to proofread it.
So
okay, so let me ask you this real quick.
That's the secret sauce. That's part of the secret sauce. Radio and podcast professionals is literally a group on LinkedIn. I'm like bamboozled for people that I see it all the time. Like, I can't find podcast guests, bro. It's because you're not looking.
Right, and like I tell people about that, what's crazy is that if you do certain things with your podcast and just advertising, and I think that's something that they can get from you too on the things that I've overlooked. And plus, you got one other thing that interests me, because I'm skimming through some extra stuff too. Your blog.
I do. I have a very active blog.
Your blog.
Yeah.
You didn't tell us anything about the webinar.
Yeah, I suck at promoting myself.
Yeah, you didn't tell us anything about that. but here's the thing. I actually believe that you're like the missing piece in a lot of podcasters, social media influencers to a degree. And I say that to a degree because influencers is kind of a
sketchy topic.
Yeah, sketchy one that I don't even want to put 10 feet of anything towards.
Gotta be real careful with those people.
Yeah, careful with them.
Yeah, man. Like, I do a lot of stuff. I mean, like, look, honestly, it's so funny, right? Like, because I live in the B2B space. I'm very good at B2B sales. I'm horrible at business to consumer sales, B2C. So, like, when people are like, dude, tell me about your course, I'm like, I tell you what about, well, like, it's made for business people but like, I have so much like consumer grade content on there. Like, I have an active blog. I have 237 blog posts on there. My most recent post, how to use LinkedIn to build your executive profile. Like, my other post, helpful podcast tools to interview remotely. Like,
yeah,
there's gold in there. And look, I'd be lying if I said I wrote all of them. I have a team of writers that I pay an exorbitant amount of money to help me and do research and write and spell check and all that. Like, there's only so many hours in a day. And
right,
I make some decent money on my website, and that's not, I was going to give it away. Like, I literally was going to pay. I use a platform called Kajabi. If anybody wants to use Kajabi, hit me up, because I do have a referral code. That would be clutch if anybody wants to use that, because Kajabi is expensive as could be. But it's like 200. It's like 200. I think I spend like $200 a month. But I was literally going to make all of these courses and just give them away, because I think it's a crime to keep knowledge. And then somebody, like, literally one of my friends, like, slapped me and was like, you cannot give this away. Like, there is way too much good in here. And the whole the whole harrisonbarron.com website, like, I just was going to buy my domain name and point it towards my main company. But somebody was like, dude, one of my podcast guests, my buddy Dan Ryan, who owns the PMP Exam Tutor, which is Project Management Professional, he saw me using LinkedIn. He's like, dude, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm prospecting. Why? What's up? And he's like, you need to teach people this. This is like gold. Like, I've never seen anybody use LinkedIn like this. And I was like, all right. And literally on a whim. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And right, I was also at one point the guy of doing a million things, right? So I was like, oh, I have a nice computer. Let me just stream video games. So I bought a nice webcam, and I did this, right? So I had all the tools to record. So then when I produced my course, I actually had some people in the Kajabi group, which is just other course creators, go through it. And I was like, look, just go through it and like give me feedback. And they're like, dude, your course is like next level. And I was like, what? I've never built a course in my life. And they're like, dude, your audio quality is on point. Your video is on point. Your slides are super informative. You're talking behind everything. Your camera cutting, this, that, and the other thing. Your ability to support people like this, that, and the other thing. Like, you're onto something. And that's where I fall short because I've never done this before. This is like I said, I was going to give this away. I was just going to be like, look, if you want to learn how to use LinkedIn for sales, like, this is what you do. Like, this is what I do for my secret sauce. This is how I get my bigger clients. This is like how I hit the target marks. Like, same thing with the podcasting thing. When I first started, I didn't know what an XLR connection was, and nobody was really creating content 4 or 5 years ago about podcasting because it was the black sheep. Nobody cared about it. Like, YouTube was the hot thing. I mean, YouTube still is the hot thing, but like, didn't know what an XLR connection was. Barely knew what a mixer was. Like, didn't know the difference between a dynamic and a condenser mic. Like, didn't know what vented power was. Didn't know special effects. Didn't know panning. Like, didn't know compression. Like, there's so many things that go on in a podcast. Like, I literally was like, there's nothing about this, and somebody was like, dude, why don't you have 100 and something episodes on your podcast? Like, you've interviewed maybe not famous people, but like famous people in the area, like people, the guy Brian Karp, who's a good friend of mine. Like, a lot of people know him on Long Island. Dude's a gangster.
Living legend.
Yeah, local legend. And people are like, dude, you got to teach this. And literally I was going to give it away. And then one of my buddies was like, no, you can't give that away. You're giving away gold. Like, you have to charge something. So I think I charge now $67 a month. I think I'm running a special right now. I think it's like $20. I'll send you a link. You can give it out.
Okay.
Or you can put it in the show notes. But I think I'm doing the LinkedIn course and shit. I'll throw in the podcasting course for $20. There you go.
Okay, and that's awesome there. All
right. So that's a deal for people that are listening to this podcast. I will literally give you both of my courses for $20. And I'm not trying to sell it. Like, if you go through it and you don't like it, just ask for your money back. Like, whatever, it's $20.
Yeah, and that was something I was going to say that was cool about what you did. No questions asked, money back guarantee.
I'm like,
you got a lot going on there. So we come to a part of the podcast.
Fire away.
The audience, obviously they're going to listen and they're going to hear everything that you had to say. And on the show, I had this rapper on here from out of New York. He does pretty good numbers. In 40 seconds, he could solve a Rubik's Cube. Okay,
that's pretty impressive.
So he had some kind of crazy brain power that I would just use for one of the world's problems or something. I couldn't even fathom having that kind of intellect, and I don't really know what you use that for. Had another guest that she doesn't like the sound of cans opening, like soda cans in commercials or anything. She can cause a wreck with a car if she hears it on the radio. God. Harrison, it is your turn to either tell us a secret that you have or a secret talent, because everybody has something. And I'll give you a moment to think about this, because I'll tell you something about me. I have no talent at all. I'm not the Mr. Talented Ripley. I have one thing about me that just drives me nuts. I hate the root vegetable beets. I will eat parsnips. I will eat rhubarb. I will eat any other type of root vegetable you give me. But if you have beets at your house and you serve them to me, I will unfriend you in real life. If you send me a picture of that on Facebook Messenger, I will block you on Facebook Messenger and still talk to you on Facebook through my post.
Oh, that's so sad. Beets are so tasty, man.
No, not at all.
I guess when I first started my podcast, I kind of committed to like an open lifestyle. And like, I really don't have any skeletons in the closet. So if anybody's like digging on me, like, good luck finding anything. Like, I live a very open lifestyle. Like, I tell everybody pretty much everything. I would say I have a couple different things that I really like. I don't know if they're secrets, because like I said, I like live this super open lifestyle, but like, I shoot archery. I love archery. Archery is super fun. I love guns. I love fast cars. I mean, I'm sure most people do. I would say I'm definitely above average as far as a cook. I went to culinary school. Actually, that's probably something most people don't know. I did go to culinary school.
Okay, see, that's
Um,
right there.
And I can curse, you said, right?
Yeah.
I fucking hate black licorice. That shit's gross.
Yeah,
That stuff
see,
is
like something like
disgusting.
that. Yeah, like black
Like,
licorice is a waste of candy.
but yeah, facts. I mean, it's disgusting. I don't know how people eat that.
And I
Like,
don't know how people eat Dr. Pepper licorice. Like, what is that?
oh god.
Only Dr.
I mean,
Pepper?
that's kind of like my thing, and that I guess the only other thing that I have, like, as far as like a, I don't say skeleton in my closet, oh my god, that you are not kidding. By the way, the 4 flavors that Lay's came out with, like the pork carnita tacos and pizza and Louisiana hot chicken, are disgusting. While we're on food, I did try all 4 of them, and they were all gross. Do not buy them. Don't waste your money on them. I think I took like 2 chips out and threw the rest out. And I'm not into wasting food at all. I guess the only other cool thing like that I have like in my history that I do kind of mention, but I don't always mention, is I was an Eagle Scout.
Okay.
So that's super cool. It plays a huge part in my life. For anyone that knows the Boy Scout code and and what it takes to become an Eagle Scout, I firmly believe that plays a tremendous part in my life. I try to pick up garbage every time I'm outside if I see something, stuff like that. I genuinely try to leave the world a better place. And I'm a volunteer fireman. So,
okay.
It's not like it's hidden. I mean, but like I genuinely love that. I don't do it for like the pat on the back or anything like that. Like I do it because I love it. I do it because, I would say like most of the people in the military, like I have a lot of military friends, like they don't do it for the fame. They don't do it for like the, hey, thanks for your service. Like I do it. You do it because you want to do it, and you do it because it's the right thing to do. And that's, I try to do everything, the right way. I'm starting to get emotional now, but like, that's how I live my life. All right, there's my secret, right? I try to do better every single day. Like whether it's for somebody else or for the planet or whatever it is, I try to leave the world a better place every single day from when I wake up to when I go to bed.
Okay, and that's commendable there.
So
okay, so once again, can you plug everything for the audience so they know where to go to find you, where they can find you on social media? We always people like to hackle and people like to do good, so you got to take both the good and the hackle. So
yeah, I mean, look, you could go on Instagram, tear me up, Harrison_Barron. I mean, I'm totally cool. You could roast me, like I don't care. Like I'm a portly fella, right? 5'9", pushing 300. Like that's who I am, right? Like who am I gonna, who am I kidding? I started the podcast off with that. Might as well end with that. But like, I got nothing to hide. HarrisonBarron.com. Come check it out. I mean, that's where I'm like super active on my own personal stuff. You'll see the podcasting course will probably be live by the time this goes live. So look, if you want, check the show description. I'll give everybody on this that's listening to this, $20 for both my courses. This is like, I've never done a deal like this. But I just thought about it while we're on here. But that's that. If you guys want to go buy it. If you guys can't afford it and you want to take it, send me an email and I will literally give it to you. I'd rather see you succeed than me make $20. So that's that. The other thing too is Growth Generators. That's my main company now. It's coming from Barron Media Group to Growth Generators. We specialize in SEO, website development. We're actually about to become a web. Actually, by the time this airs, I probably will be a Webflow partner.
Okay.
And that's really what we do. And then I have one side project, right? Everybody's got a little side project, if I didn't do enough stuff. If you guys want to check out and learn some stuff about bourbon and cigars, I happen to love both of those. I also have another website called bottleandash.com.
Okay.
It's like in the infancy stages. So like for anybody that's like about to tear me a new one, like chill. It's like neglected as could be, but I still try to create content on there and and that kind of stuff.
All right, Harrison Barron, I want to thank you for coming on West Virginia Uncommon Place. Thank you very much for being on here. Like,
dude, thanks for having me, man. This is a great podcast. I had a blast.
Yeah, we'll definitely do some more connecting because you still got more things going on, and dude, next thing you know, you're going to be coming back, and your podcast will be jumping back up again. Correct?
Yeah. Podcast will be going live probably in the next coming weeks. Like I said, I'm doing a whole new Rode setup. I'm getting a Rodecaster Pro podcast production studio. I'm getting the Rode Pod mic. This is like the all-in setup before I upgrade to the SM7Bs.
Okay.
For anyone that's listening that doesn't know what the SM7B is, that's like the holy grail of microphones in the podcasting world.
Yes, it is. That's where I hope to be one day. But once again, I want to thank you for coming on, and we will definitely have to do another podcast because you have way too much content just for this little small episode. Okay.
Sounds good, man, dude. I'm always in.
All right. Thanks.